the Gibson Les Paul has always been one of my favorite guitars. Like I love Stratocasters, but when I was a very young man, a friend of mine got a Les Paul from his grandfather, and then he traded the Les Paul to me. I gave him a stereo and about 30 records for the guitar because he knew how much I love playing guitar. And I used that guitar on well over 1,000 gigs. I still have the guitar. I love the guitar. Okay. I love Gibson Les Pauls. You know what I don't love is all these people running around talking about how untouchable a 1959 Les Paul is and asking 350,000, 400,000, $500,000 for a 1959 Les Paul. It's when I had a chance to buy one, it was 60 grand. Okay. Way, way back in the day. And at that time, I thought 60 grand was outrageous. I'm going to pay 60 grand for this guitar. I probably should have if I could have gotten up the money because it'd be worth, hundreds of thousands of dollars right now. It's a good investment. It's a good investment. If you are buying this guitar because you go, look, man, I know it's 250 grand, but I think it's been worth 500 grand in 10 years. I got no problem with that. I also have no problem with anybody paying 300 grand for a guitar, 500 grand. I have no problem with it. Like spend your money however you want. So don't get what I'm saying mixed up here. You want to spend 500 grand on a 59 Les Paul, do it. I have nothing to say to you, nothing, zero. Enjoy yourself. But when you tell me that the 59 Les Paul is the best sounding guitar and the greatest guitar ever made, this is where I have a problem. Oh, and by the way, I found a guitar that sounds as good as a 59. I found one. Okay, so if you're claiming that there's never been a guitar that sounds as good as a 59, I found one. Okay, and I'm going to be demonstrating it in the future. But right now, I'm just going to examine the mythology behind the 59 Les Paul. Here's a one that came up to the Chicago Music Exchange, right? And had this guy, I don't know who this guy is, but he's playing it. And he says, we have these great guitar players who've played this 59 guitar, right? And the list is so long, I could be here all day. But let me just name a few.
Could be here all day. But to name just a few of them, we got Jimmy Page.
Now, this is from a reputable source, Chicago Music Exchange, great store. Jimmy Page did play a 59. It was his main guitar, okay? But it was altered. He changed the tuning pegs. And in 1972, he changed the lead pickup. So all these guys that are trying to sound like Jimmy Page with an original PAF in their 59, that's not what Jimmy Page used. And I also want to tell you that one of the guys that interviewed Jimmy Page about the guitar and wrote extensively about the guitar, he said the neck was shaved on the guitar. On the 59, the neck was shaved on the guitar down. So all these guys that are playing at 59 and going, wow, that must be what Jimmy Page. No, Jimmy Page's guitar was altered. And it had been refinished. So it was the neck was shaved. So here's Jimmy Page's 59. The neck was shaved, tuning pegs were changed, it was refinished, and he had to change out the lead pickup at one point, and then he had to change out the other pickup. So when you're paying, 300 grand for a guitar that you think is going to be like Jimmy Page, Guess what? It ain't this one. It ain't this one, man. Not what Jimmy Page used, man. He used an altered Les Paul, a refin, shaved neck, changed out pickups, changed tuning pegs. I think he may have actually had to change the bridge at one point because things got worn down, but I could be wrong about that one. See, this is what just irks me is this legend that this 59 sounds so good. It's so great. Look, who else used it? Eric Clapton. Now, are you Eric Clapton used it on one record, plugged it into a blues breaker on Marshall and just cranked it on one record. Beano, the Beano record. What guitar is Eric Clapton absolutely synonymous with? Fender Stratocaster. So much so that Eric Clapton has a Fender Stratocaster artist model. One of the first artist models ever created was for Eric Clapton. It's been a bestseller. They still make it to this day. A black Fender Stratocaster he called Blackie. That was his main guitar that he played for decades. He still plays it to this day. So to somehow claim, oh, Eric Clapton is somehow, oh, he's synonymous with get a 59 because Eric Clapton played it. No, Eric Clapton played it if this is his career, he played it for that much time. And then in the same vein, he picks up Jeff Beck. Oh, Jeff Beck used a Les Paul. Jeff Beck, I mean, almost never used a Les Paul. Once again, synonymous with the Stratocaster and the vibrato bar. The only time I personally ever seen Jeff Beck playing a Les Paul was on the Blow by Blow record. And on the Blow by Blow record, George Martin said a 54 Les Paul and 70 Strat. So on the record where Jeff Beck is pictured with a Les Paul, it's not a 59. And Jeff Beck rarely played Les Paul. I mean, I have never, I can't think of one time I've ever seen Jeff Beck, on stage with the Les Paul. All I've seen him with is Stratocasters, doing his what he works the whammy bar with simultaneously with the guitar. So to say Jeff Beck is somehow associated with the 59 Les Paul is just it's a stretch, a real stretch. Gary Moore. This is another stretch. Gary Moore is one of my guitar heroes, man. Okay. Fantastic guitar player. Okay. Gary Moore had a 1963 Fiesta Red Strat that he used, and a Les Paul Jr. that he used as much or more than a 59 Les Paul. Now, later on, when he quote unquote, came back, when he kind of reemerged as a guitar hero, he was doing Still Got the Blues. He was doing like these blues type music. And 100% he used the 59 Les Paul, probably most of the time during that era, which has lasted up until the day he died. But and this is another myth about the Les Paul, that the 59 Les Paul that kind of irks me. This guitar sounds so fantastic. This guitar is so great. Well, the dude who had went through the Jimmy Page stuff with Jimmy Page, right? He said the most important element of the 59 Les Paul that Jimmy Page owned was Jimmy Page. It was not the guitar. It was the guy working the guitar, by the way. And since I'm talking about Jimmy Page right now, even though I'm really focusing on Gary Moore, Jimmy Page's most famous guitar solo, Stairway to Heaven, was played on a Telecaster. So the most famous recorded material that you've heard, most famous solo Jimmy Page ever played, was played on the Telecaster, not a Gibson, not a 1959 Les Paul. Okay. He did use it extensively on his records, but I'm just telling you, he used a Tele on his most famous solo. And he used a Tele on the whole first record. The whole first record was a Tele. He didn't even own the Les Paul then. Okay. Gary Moore is another example of a guy that can make any guitar sound great. So it wasn't the 59 Les Paul in Gary Moore's hands that made it the 59. 59 wasn't the element that sounded so great. It's Gary Moore. If you've ever heard Gary Moore play End of the World, it's an amazing guitar solo. And it's on a Les Paul Jr. It's on a Les Paul Jr. It's not on a 59. And Gary used his, this is not the red Strat, but Gary had a Fiesta Red 63 Strat that he loved. That he played a lot. Right here, he's not playing a Les Paul. 1987. He only kind of, when he did Still Got the Blues, he did use his 59 Les Paul. But once again, it ain't the 59 Les Paul, man. It's Gary Moore. Any guitar Gary Moore picked up sounded fantastic because he did it. Gary Rosington. Got nothing to say about that. He used the 1959 extensively. Slash. Now, this one I got something to say about. Now, by the way, we've already gone through what? Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Gary Moore. All of them questionable in terms of being, representatives of a 59. Okay. Especially Jeff Beck and Eric Clapton. Slash. See, this one really irks me. This one irks me one of the most because I can't remember if I was at a guitar show or I was somewhere where a very reputable guy was selling a Les Paul, beautiful Les Paul. I said, how much is that? And he had it priced like, like $3,000 too low or something, $5,000 too low. I go, what? I go, what's wrong with it, man? Because beautiful guitar. And he says, oh, it's not a real Les Paul. It's the guy who built it's the same guy who built Slash's Les Paul. And I went, what? He goes, oh yeah, Slash didn't. You thought Slash used a Les Paul on Appetite for Destruction? No. He couldn't afford a Les Paul, a real Les Paul. He had this one was made, and it was an imitation of a Les Paul. It's not a real Les Paul. So this guy's claiming somehow that Slash is associated with the 59 Les Paul. Slash couldn't afford 59 Les Paul. Slash did not play a 59 Les Paul. I don't even think, I mean, he may have one, but I've never seen him play it. And once again, I could be wrong. He may have brought one out on tour. I don't know, but I know for a fact that on the original Appetite for Destruction record, he was not playing a 59 Les Paul. Couldn't afford a 59 Les Paul. It was an imitation. It was a built. It wasn't even a Gibson. So Slash got his sound not even playing a Gibson Les Paul. So for this guy to claim, oh, you got to spend a couple $100,000 on Les Paul on this 59 because Slash used it. Man, that irks me. This one's interesting too. Don Felder. This is interesting too. Don Felder. There's an interview with Don, which he had a 59, 100% guaranteed he had a 59. Listen to this. You ever heard the guitar solo on one of these nights where just, one of these, and it just, boom, and it just comes in with a ripping? I love that song. How did you get that incredible guitar sound on one of these nights? Listen to what Don Felder says here. That's the 59 Les Paul into the narrow panel Tweed Deluxe again. The amp has a very unique sound. I have about 6 of them, but the particular one has a real sweet spot because of the speaker and the way it's wired. Line 6 wanted to take that amp and make an emulation of it, but I said no, because I don't want everyone to sound like me. So Don Felder is not giving credit to the guitar, the 59 guitar. He's saying it's the amp. So here's a guy trying to sell you a $300,000 guitar going, well, Don Felder used one. And Don Felder himself, you notice he didn't say, well, that 59, man, you can't beat the sound of it. Oh, this 59 is the holy grail. I mean, if it wasn't for the 59, I wouldn't be getting my sound. No, he says, it's my amp. It's my Tweed amp that's getting the sound. I have 6 of them because they all have a certain sound that's very unique, and that's where I'm getting my sound from. So on this guy's example, Jimmy Page's guitar altered, not a real 59. Eric Clapton played it one time on one record. Jeff Beck, don't even know when he used it. It wasn't very often, and certainly was eponymous with being a Strat player, as was Eric Clapton. Gary Moore only played it during a certain time in his life at the end. Gary Rossington played it a lot. Got no problem with that. Slash never played a Gibson Les Paul. Did not play Gibson Les Paul on Appetite for Destruction. And when he started off playing Gibson Les Pauls, there wasn't even playing one. No less than 1959. Don Felder. Oh, no, it wasn't 59. It was my amp. So the legend, this is how a legend gets perpetrated. This is how a legend gets life. This is how a legend, continues on. And the legend of the 1959 is perpetuated by I'm going to call this dude a moron, or he's either dumb as hell, hasn't done his research, or he's misleading you to sell a $300,000 guitar to you. Okay. So either one of them is not a good case scenario. I don't know who the guy is. Don't care. So once again, I'm going to tell you, I found a guitar that sounds as good as a 1959 Les Paul. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some videos of some 59s and I'm going to imitate it. And I might use this video too, because he plays some Leonard Skinner on it, which is not hard to play. Yeah, I'm going to get their exact sound using a modern day Les Paul that cost, a lot less than 350 grand. So don't buy into the hype, man. Please don't buy into the hype of a 1959 Gibson Les Paul being the pinnacle of all guitars and the best sounding guitar ever made. It's just this is an example of how a legend like that gets perpetuated, and it's just not true.